Hey, I hope you can all hear me. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. This feels a bit like the Oscars, doesn't it? I'm only out in Inverurie, but unfortunately I had another meeting earlier on and yeah, couldn't get into Aberdeen in time. But yeah, I'm here to talk about the Inverurie Climate Matters Group. And COP26 in Glasgow was the catalyst for getting folk at Inverurie West Church to take action. Across the Christian aid movement that year, there'd been a determination that the voices of those most affected by climate change should be heard. And Christian Aid put together some great materials for raising awareness with young people. And one of these projects was called Setting Sail for Climate Justice. After a film and discussion about how flooding is affecting some of the poorest countries in the world, young people were asked to make an origami boat and on the side of it to write a prayer for climate justice. Before the origami boats from Inverurie were sent off to join the 25,000 others at an installation in a local church in Glasgow, the folk in Inverurie hung our brightly coloured flotilla from the ceiling of our cafe. This prompted lots of questions and discussions with all sorts of people who popped in for a coffee. The interest in the boats and why they'd been made reflected a real concern about the global environmental crisis, and it made us realise that we just couldn't stop there. A small group of us within the church started to meet and to plan for a climate action initiative with the intention that it should be as inclusive as possible and it should reflect a range of voices and experiences. We contacted local organisations and individuals already working on climate initiatives, and to our delight, we found there's quite a few organisations willing to take part into what had developed into the idea of a Climate Matters Festival. The organisations included, just to name a few, Huntly Climate Warriors, who ran a workshop especially for young people, the Huntly and District Swift Group, Greener Kemney, Matt, who we've just heard from at Zero Carbon Daviet, the Woodland Trust, and a trustee from the local Uriside Riverside Park here in Inverurie, who agreed to lead an afternoon walk and talk about their native tree planting project. So with a seed grant from NESCAN, for which we were very, very grateful, we got stickers, badges, posters, leaflets, and a large banner. And our festival went ahead. It was a weekend of activities and talks designed to help people to learn from and inspire one another on ways of reducing carbon emissions and restoring nature. Now, I don't know if I can put up another slide. I'm just going to have a go at this. Let's see. Sorry about my technology knowledge is probably not that great. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. So this is our minister with the banner that was hung outside our church. We wanted from the outset for the event not to be doom and gloom, but for it to focus on what was already successfully happening in the local area and for it to appeal to all sorts of people at all sorts of levels, from those who were still wondering whether there was a problem. And Chris from NESCAN did a great introductory session for us with interactive discussion and allowed folk time to digest quite difficult information and share responses, all the way along to those who were already convinced and ready to make changes. And that's again when we had Matthew and his retrofitting scheme for houses. What every session had in common was that we finished with information on where to go next, where to find more information, websites and expert advice. And this is something we still try to do after each of our cafes. Aware that there are lots of different learning styles out there, not everyone feels comfortable in seated round the table discussions. We had a building bird box event for families, a cookery session with suggestions for making use of leftover food, and a session on recycling, upcycling, which turned old pieces of materials into beautiful decorative rag wreaths. We felt these fun creative sessions were a way of creating an awareness of little changes people could make, and they were vital in reaching out and connecting with people who were at the start of their climate awareness journey. We wanted to lift people's spirits, to involve people, to be big, bold and celebratory. We made a point of running events at different times and different places throughout the weekend in order to attract as wide a range of people as possible. And at the end of the day, we felt, and our feedback systems told us, that we had been relatively successful. We'd engaged with around 75 people, which for Inverurie is pretty good. And we were delighted with this, as it was a warm and sunny weekend, and we'd been fearful that people might just stay at home and enjoy the sunshine. We had sent out publicity to all our elected members, our MPs and MSPs, and 2 of 4 of our local councillors attended, as well as 2 of our MSPs, and they're all now on our mailing list. They seem to be genuinely interested in what we're doing, and they ask that we keep in regular touch, and they're in contact with us. They've said that knowing how local people feel and having actual quotes and statistics from local groups about activities in the area is really valuable and a useful tool for them when it comes for them to contribute meaningful to debate about climate change. Plain jargon, plain language and no jargon was the aim of every session during the festival. And on our advertising materials, we tested out publicity on people we knew who were not converts with a question, would this poster or this leaflet entice you to go along? Needless to say that in the beginning, there were quite a few rewrites. As well as question and answer sessions at the end of every session, we tried to make time for folk to talk and listen to one another over a cup of tea. We gathered feedback and ideas after each event on a post-it note in the shape of a leaf, and we asked people to commit to one change they could make which would make a difference and attach it to our pledge tree. The tree was then hung again in the cafe and in local shops, and this prolonged discussion after the festival about what the weekend had been about and the simple pledges people had made. 12 people attended the final session of the festival, which was entitled What Next? And it was from this session the idea for our climate cafe grew. One common mistake when forming a group is to think that because everyone is committed to the core purpose that initially drew them together, that there won't be any difficulty in working together. But everyone has their own ideas about how groups should be run based on past experiences and beliefs and on their own strengths and abilities. And each group needs to figure its own way of working. And investing time at an early stage on the purpose of our group was seen by group members as being really important, and we hope it will provide dividends in the future. So we spent the first few meetings agreeing on the aim of the group, helping enormously in getting clarity for everything else that followed, who can join, our priorities, how we'll work together, and it's been an important time to build trust and safety, to get to know one another and to give and get support. The group is still spending time at meetings looking at writing things down. We've been determined from the outset to create clear structures and processes that help our group work enjoyably and effectively together. Notice the emphasis on enjoyably. We want the process to be fun. We don't want the word meeting to lead to a sinking feeling, and so we try hard to balance fun with getting things done. We feel that it's important for the group to be effective, that we spend time getting to know one another as people. So to date, we've tried opening our meetings by going around the group, asking what folk have learned, noticed, heard since the last meeting. No discussion, just a quick round robin. And we've also tried a short throwaway question, such as, what's the most beautiful place you've ever been? And this allows everyone at the start of a meeting to speak. It lets them test their voice in the group, and we hope it helps make any future contribution or question from them more likely. A key component to our meetings is to have an open agenda and to get anything that folk think is important dealt with and discussed. Diversity can only come from a commitment to the values of inclusion and respect, and we want to listen and build on the concerns and passions that fuel the people around us. We're aiming to try to retain our initial pledge to plain language and no jargon, but our protagonists and speakers tend to be very knowledgeable, and we're aware of how this can affect the power dynamics. So we therefore brief them to give clear, simple information and then allow them lots of time to digest this at our sessions and folk to share their thoughts. To stop folk drifting away, we also try not to be a talking shop, but rather to have lots of opportunities for people to join us in tree planting, guerrilla gardening, upcycling and crafting. We want to continue to work with existing groups, and in fact our next project cafe will be with one of the organisations that was at our festival, the Huntly and District Swift Group. They're addressing the steep decline in the common swift numbers across the northeast of Scotland, a horrifying 62% decline over the last 10 years. Callie Smith delivered a talk about these amazing birds, now declared a red list species, and participants were interested to learn that despite the fact swifts have returned year after year to Inverurie for over 100 years, recently, sadly, they found that many of their old nesting sites have disappeared in order to make way for new housing schemes. Callie, however, as a result of interest in her talk, discovered a small group of people keen to install swift nesting boxes, and these will be going up in lots of places, including the West Church steeple in the near future. The making and installation of the boxes will not only be a major boost towards enhancing the local and rapidly declining swift population, but it will also form the basis of a fantastic conversation project, which we hope will attract the interest of the local community and in particular local schools. We're working in partnership with Callie and the moment and local school children to develop a knowledge and awareness of the plight of these charismatic little birds. And we're kicking off our new partnership project by holding a family swift walk and talk in Inverurie on the 12th of June. We will, of course, advertise the walk as widely as possible and hope to attract a good turnout, but also with the view of continuing to bring swifts into the public eye and imagination. And with the help of another NESCAN grant, we're going to install a webcam in the steeple, our very own spring watch, so the eventual breeding activities of the swifts might be shown to visitors in the church cafe. So exciting times ahead for the Inverurie Climate Matters group. And if you ever find yourself in Inverurie looking for a cuppa and a very fancy piece, we would like to see you at the Acorn Cafe and hope that you might have the added bonus of seeing one of our new swift families.
Thank you very much. Biff, can you hear us?